the record in here. Here goes the encoder. And you are good to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, with so much to talk about in wrestling, the Great American Bash happened in NXT. Fighter Fest happened in AEW. A brand new United States Championship was revealed for WWE on Raw. And our own Nick has a really embarrassing story to tell. We're going to get into all that and more this week as we
break the ring down.
Woo! You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
Rise to the top. Oh, yeah.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. You just made the list. This right here is a family.
Hey, this is professional wrestler and professional podcaster Colt Boom Boom Cabana.
My name is Killer Cross.
This is The Smoke Show, Scarlett Bordeaux.
What's up, guys? The F Machine, Brian Cage.
This is Ryan from Pro Wrestling Tees.
Sadly, you are not listening to The Art of Wrestling, but you made a decent choice because you're listening.
You are now listening to...
And you're listening
to...
You listen to Breaking Down the Ring.
Breaking Down the Ring.
Breaking Down the Ring.
Breaking Down the Ring.
Breaking Down the Ring. Bring it down.
Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening, you are watching, you are paying attention to the most inappropriate pro wrestling show in the motherfucking world. You're listening to Breaking Down the Ring. We are your ring crew.
Koenig 19.
Plain White Z.
And me, the almighty one, Mikey himself. We got a lot to get into today, man. We took last week off. It was Father's Day. 2 of the 3 people here spent time with their children.
Was it?
Did things.
No, last week was 4th of July, Mike. That was
last week was 4th of July. We still spent time with our children. I'm drunk on Faygo. Sorry, guys. Faygo, fuck yourself. So yeah, last week was 4th of July. I worked last night. I'm really fucking tired. Work was stupid. So, wore me out. I didn't get a lot of sleep in between. I apologize about messing up the day, but whatever. Fuck it. Who cares? That's my embarrassing story. Nick, what's yours?
Oh, crap. So, it's not like I fell or got caught with my pants down again or anything like that. This has to do with, there's so many wrestling moves out there. They all have names. And there's a wrestling move that it was probably one of the first moves I ever heard a name for when I was a kid.
Okay.
The knife edge chop. So when I was a kid, I don't remember who it was that said it, but for some reason, I heard night veg chop. Okay. So a knight in shining armor and a vegetarian. So a night veg chop. Now, in my head, I kind of just assumed, well, there's names of wrestling moves that kind of have, a name of a guy that's, a name of whoever made the move. So maybe there's like, Joe Night Veg that came up with this chop. So this lasted up until about 4 days ago. So anytime I ever heard them say this name of this move when somebody would get chopped, in my head I was like, oh, what a night veg chop. But then Mauro Ranallo said knife edge chop, and I'm sitting on the couch again 4 days ago. I'm 37 years old now. So this has been going on for 30 years. I hear knife edge chop, and I put 2 and 2 together. They're chopping this dude like this, and my jaw hit the floor, and I was like, man, it's actually called a knife edge chop, not a night veg chop, a knife edge chop. So for the better part of my life, I've been calling it a night veg chop, and I feel like a real asshole because of it.
And ladies and gentlemen, Smitty is actually here today.
Night veg chop. You know, I think
We
that's
need to
a
make
shirt.
Nick a t-shirt.
I think that's a shirt. I think there's a knight doing this to like a celery stick, a carrot,
A vegetable.
I mean,
right across the chest.
at least if you thought it was a knife veg, not night veg, that would make a little more sense because you do chop vegetables.
Right. Like slap chop.
Yeah, exactly. Some shit like that.
I did though. I just
Jeez.
thought it was named after some dude named, Joe Night Veg or somebody. Just whatever.
I now feel like I need to go over the whole wrestling vocabulary.
Right.
Like the ABCs of wrestling. Here's a book, Nick.
Yeah. It's called the Rock Bottom. It's a Stone Cold Stunner.
It's
so,
the
like,
Lou Thez press, not
Yeah.
the Lucid press.
Loose, not the flaccid press.
Yeah, that's named after the wrestler Lou Thez, who
Yep.
is like you said. Some things do come based on other people's things, like any move that's made popular by someone for the most part. The stunner. It used to be. It was just a shoulder jawbreaker. You know what I'm saying? But it now is the stunner. The Iranagi, Bray Wyatt's doing it. A lot of people are doing it without dropping, but the Iranagi is the rock bottom. You know what I'm saying? Just most people now are just doing where they catch the person and throw it down. So a la Samoa Joe, Bray Wyatt.
So it's not an Asian dude named Iranagi?
It might
I'm
be.
just kidding.
He may have.
Yeah, I have no
started it.
idea why it's called the Uranagi, but
Yeah,
it is called the
just
Uranagi.
So yeah, I understand your thought process for the name of it, and I even understand the fact that it happened when you were 4, right? Like, because when you're a kid, you just hear things and you think things. There's many things that I have heard and thought when I was a kid that at some point I was just like, oh, that's what it is. But I mean, look, man, there was there's many things like that, like the Star Spangled Banner. Like, okay, I think my favorite. This is like a pure Jessica Simpson moment, right? Because remember when that Nick Lachey and Jessica MTV show came out, everyone found out how stupid Jessica Simpson is, right? They're like, oh, she can sing and she's beautiful, but she thinks tuna is chicken in the sea. She's like, this is chicken. And she's like, it's called chicken of the sea. Like, it's fucking tuna. And then she was like, she really thought buffaloes had wings because buffalo wings.
All right, hold on. I do remember these things, but it makes me think, like, how much of that was for like a pure entertainment standpoint?
I don't know. I honestly
Yeah,
don't
because this
know
is
much
just
of
me
that.
being an idiot.
But
but I'm saying, like, when you're filming on MTV and you're showing like how ditzy Jessica Simpson is, or just dumb in that matter, you don't think they exaggerated a little bit so people like us are like, oh my god, this bitch is stupid, but I'm going to keep watching to see how much dumber she gets.
Can you exaggerate that though? Can you exaggerate thinking a buffalo has wings?
You can exaggerate anything, my friend. We watch wrestling.
That's true. That's very true. And I think there was one time, I don't remember who it was. It could be Jessica Simpson again, just for the national anthem where someone thought it was Jose, can you see?
I remember what you're talking about, and I think, no, that might have been a Family Guy thing. That might have been the blonde from Family. I don't know. I know what you're talking about, because I think it was the Drew Barrymore character from Family Guy, the ditzy girl that Brian was dating.
Yeah. There's a lot of stupid things, man. It's really funny. It was one point I was a part of this Twitter account. It was like someone smarter, and it was SUM, the number 1, and SMRTR. And it just was retweeting people who said the stupidest things. Like, obviously, you've seen it a lot. One of my favorite is lactose intolerant, but people would type it out as lack, toast, and tolerant. It's like your breakfast didn't have any toast with it, but you were okay.
All right, so with that one being brought up, when I was a kid, that's what I used to think it was, because you just hear it and you don't know what it is. I mean, granted, I'm like 6 years old, so I'm really not supposed to understand. But yeah, I figured that shit by 11, Nick. By 11, I knew lactose was a thing, like a word.
Well, now let's be fair to Nick. Like, he stopped watching wrestling for a very long time. You know, he kind of got out of it a little after the Attitude Era, and he kind of got back into it like steadily. You know, so when you're just like paying attention to bits and pieces of things over years, you're not really listening to stuff anymore. You know, so the fact that he steadily is that. But how many people say knife edge chop?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Because, I mean, he may have not been paying attention, but since he's what? You've been here a year and a half, 2 years, Nick? You've been on the show?
About 2 years, yeah.
Okay. So you've been here for 2 years. So that means you've been watching, like, religiously or almost religiously for 2 years now. And I guarantee you, like, when Daniel Bryan came back and his chest was purple when he was leaving the ring, somebody said knife edge chop.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I probably just heard it in my head as knife
How
edge,
did you?
I just never think of it, you know.
When did you hear it that made you go, "Oh, that's what they said," or did you just kind of like say it in your head?
4 days ago, when Mauro Ranallo said it.
On NXT, on the Great American Bash, he said it. I don't remember what match I was watching, and it came out. He perfectly articulated knife edge, and I had to pause it. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, I had a moment with that.
Like, I feel like you need to put one of those Ring doorbells in front of your TV, or just a camera of some sort, so we can see your reaction every time you discover something you thought you knew about wrestling that's completely different.
Just tape himself watching wrestling.
Yes, the pure reaction of it is just as funny as the story itself. Because I would have been so much funnier if we would have saw the videotape of him being like, "Oh, damn."
just sit back, go, "Huh."
Is that so?
the pure, wow, I can't believe I'm that dumb. Gotta tell the boys
That's
later.
really what I thought.
That's what Z and I were talking about when he came to the bar last night. He was like, I was like, I can't wait to hear Nick's story. He's like, I'm so pissed off. He just told us and said he was going to say it on the show. Now I'm happy you did say it on the show rather than in the chat, because seeing your face, as you said, you just learned it's not a knife veg chop, makes it way better. But if I have drawing skills, or I can find someone to draw it for me, I'm going to get someone to draw a knife chopping some celery, or like a carrot. I don't know. Probably a carrot, like an upside down carrot. Yeah, like a knight veg chop.
Yeah, like a knight sword chopping a carrot.
Not even a sword, just like the knight with his fucking jousting outfit armor, and using the chop on the chest of a carrot.
Make it a buff carrot.
Well, duh. It's like going to be upside down. You know, the big end's going to be on the top, going down. He's going to have muscles. He's like, and then you just go, woo.
The images I'm getting in my head are just ridiculous.
That's how we're going to do it now. I know Dave might be listening, so Dave, I don't care. So there's more to talk about this week, because we took the 2 weeks off, but it was good reason that we took 2 weeks off, besides Father's July 4th, July 4thers Day, that I don't know a fucking holiday for. Great American Bash and Fighter Fest were both 2 week-long shows, each of which were two nights, basically. 2 2-hour shows each, just like a regular pay-per-view should be. About 3 hours total with no commercials. And also, WWE released a brand new championship belt, which we're going to talk about first before we go into Fighter Fest and Great American Bash. Let's talk about this United States Championship. It was revealed on Raw, and a bunch of people hated it. Like, it's like the automatic thing to do is hate a brand new championship belt when it's out. Outside of, like, the AEW title and the NXT UK title, which was the WWE UK title at that point. Those are like the two first belts I've seen in a long time that when they were revealed right away, everyone was like, holy shit, that's gorgeous. Then TNT dropped the tag titles and they're like, oh, those are really good. They dropped the women's title and everyone was like, it's kind of small. I get it, I guess. And then they dropped the TNT championship and everyone was like, blow that thing up. Like, it's just an actual horrible fucking looking title. Now, granted, a lot of reports came out that it wasn't able to be finished in time because of COVID, so on and so forth. I hope they kind of work a storyline into finishing it at some point, if that's the actual thing, because that thing hasn't changed at all. It's not like Florida wasn't open for a long time during this to fix it because they're in Jacksonville. So I hope some sort of
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I hope some sort of story comes along, like someone finally takes it off of Cody, like MJF or someone is like, I can't do this. This is ugly. I'm going to get it fixed. And then we have an actual TNT title, but then you have the United States Championship, and it dropped, and everyone was like, that thing is gross. And
it has
it
balls.
Was like, yeah, and then it was like shiny, and everyone was just like, oh, and then my first thought when I'm looking at it is like, that thing's beautiful. Everyone's like, it's so shiny, and it's like, it's got like 8 spotlights on him. Cesaro shines too when he fucking entrance comes out, and then they released a photo of it without all the spotlights on it. And I was like, oh, my first, I was like, yeah, all right. And then I saw the photo without all the spotlights on it. I was like, ooh, that's pretty. And then I saw the photos on WWEshop.com because you can purchase it already. It's just, not coming out till July 20th, but you can purchase it. And I was like scrolling through them all. I was like, this is one of the best titles that WWE has put out in a long time. It is a huge incorporation of America. I think it brings up something that's been a huge missing point from their major title belts since the one that The Rock and Austin were wearing, and that was the Winged Eagle. That thing is prominent on the bottom of that championship along with the stripes, and then you got the stars above where it says United States Champion. I think that the belt looks really good. I think WWE did a great job with it. Obviously, there was reports that they had this belt in December, right? And they were just waiting on being able to release it to the public for it to come out. Nick, what are your thoughts when you first saw it versus when you're looking at it currently after it's out of the spotlights?
My first initial reaction, just for a split second, I thought it was a little plain, only because I'm used to seeing the other United States championship. But yeah, when you took a closer look, it is really nice. I can't get away from the ball sack that's in the middle of it, and I can't. And I haven't zoomed in on it enough to even really know what that is in the middle. So
yeah.
I imagine it to maybe be 2 fists or something like that, but
no.
But no, it is a really nice title, and after the 24/7 debacle with that fucking shit show, I'm glad to see them put out a belt that looks as nice as that does. So
that's it. I'm like, this is for obviously the people who are paying attention. It's not really balls. It's just a space between the eagle.
Yeah, like above its wings. Yeah, and when I first saw it, all that red and white, the part of the flag under the eagle looked all gold. But yeah, and again, because of the spotlights, but when you see that picture and it adds the red and white stripes, yeah, it's really nice.
I do wish, when you're looking at it, I wish there was a little bit more blue behind the stars. You know what I'm saying? Not so much gold, because then it would probably represent the American flag a little bit more. I mean, obviously the stars there, and says champion in blue. Again, I don't think it's horrible. I don't think it's ugly. I think it's a really beautiful title. There's obviously, you can nitpick about any championship.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect, like staring at Z's butt as he walks. It's a beautiful thing.
Those hips don't lie.
In the middle of a show, and he's having a conversation with his dad right now. And we know what they were just looking at. Fucking over there, Zed farming and stuff. What the fuck? But yeah, you can nitpick about this stuff all you want. But the bottom line is, in my personal opinion, I think this championship is one of the better ones that WWE's put out in a while.
Definitely agree, for sure.
We would love to get Z's opinion on this, but it's a two-man show now, because he is walking outside paying attention to his garden. Oh, are you back?
I'll give you my opinion. I don't really like the fucking title. I think it has a ball sack. I'm not really. But, maybe it's not done yet because they are in Florida, and that's, AEW's thing. So, that's what they do. If they don't like titles now, they're just not done yet. It needs to be finished. But you were right, Mikey. When it wasn't, like, on the spotlights and it wasn't glaring back at me, it did look a lot better.
Yeah, I think that I really, like, just looking at it, it's a title that it's just pretty to me. I can understand where anyone's coming from with the ball sack, especially because it's like right under the M, where when it goes up the M, there's just like a straight shaft to the W. So it's like dick and balls going straight up. But I just really fucking think this thing is pretty, especially when you get it from the side and you see what's like sticking out, like, the side, like, the side view and stuff. You can see how prominent the lettering is, and the eagle, how it's like, it's a title that if I owned it, I'd probably be like, wow, that's beautiful. Nick, do you have your computer on you by chance?
I don't.
No, I was gonna say, if you did, go to this after this, check it out. Shop.wwe.com. We're not promoting it, obviously. We're not getting paid to say that, but it is available. And it says, the expected in-stock date is Monday, July 20th, 2020. So you can see it, you can check it out, you can look, because that obviously gives you different angles and things like that. But it's one of those things that look, outside of Z, like, at least on this show, allegedly, I don't know, Smitty is dead and Joe is surviving somehow. It's, we're obviously torn. But so is the internet. There's a lot of people that fucking think this thing blows. Z is included in one of those. There are people who think it's absolutely beautiful, like me. And then there's people like Nick who are just like, yeah, it's not bad. I wish, whatever. And that's how it is. Like I said, outside of the AEW championship and when the WWE UK NXT UK title was released, I have never seen anyone unanimous about how beautiful a championship belt is. Mm-hmm. It's one of the, like, and that's recent, right? I'm not even talking like the IWGP Heavyweight Championship from New Japan, widely considered like the best looking heavyweight championship belt. I get it. But that's older. I'm talking about new. Like, right now, it just seems like everyone who is anyone, when they see a championship belt right off the bat, they're like, that thing is fucking ugly. Or there's just like, it's really difficult to find someone, find a championship belt that is unanimously thought of as beautiful. Like ours. Ours is unanimously thought of as beautiful.
As you can plainly see.
Yeah, it's really pretty. And you have that because you think you're the Ring Crew champion. That's so beautiful, man.
Oh, I don't think.
No, think 19. So next, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Fyter Fest. Let's talk about Great American Bash. Fyter Fest was announced and filmed in one day and played over 2 days. Great American Bash was announced after that and was filmed in one day and also played over the same 2 days as Fyter Fest for NXT. Now, before we go into these events, let's talk about NXT using Great American Bash. There was a lot of controversy when it first came out, because obviously it's like AEW has Fyter Fest, NXT is now doing Great American Bash, and the first thing is like Triple H is just counter a counter product to AEW, right? They have to do something to keep the ratings up, to keep the ratings like close, and so on and so forth like that. And so that's what they did. They counterbooked. Sorry, that's the term I was looking for. Triple H came out and said he doesn't counterbook against AEW. He just books what it is. And then there was a lot of people talking about how they're using Great American Bash, which is a Dusty creation similar to War Games, and how NXT is using that. And people asked Cody if he was upset by that. And he goes, he's not really upset about it, but it's more than a name for when Dusty was booking it, because it was Dusty. It was a show booked by Dusty, created by Dusty, the titles given by Dusty. And he said, like, in Cody's interview, he said, like, not War Games, Starrcade. He's like, Starrcade is for your sister, a Great American Bash is for you. So he said to them, it's personal and things like that. And I get that, right? And Cody's like, they own the property to it. They're allowed to use whatever they want. It's like, but you have to remember that I understand it's family and blood is thicker than water. But Dusty's as big of a part of the NXT stuff as Triple H is, right? Because Dusty was his right-hand man. Dusty was also a part of getting people in promo classes and booking the NXT shows. Like, all of the earlier NXT stuff that we watched that we loved was Triple H and Dusty for a large part of it, because of their working relationship, two, the amount of love that Triple H has had for the old school style of booking. And of course that plays into Dusty as well. And that was Dusty's gimmick. Dusty with Triple H made NXT. When Dusty passed, so many NXT people have things. Even Bayley to this day has tights where half of them are polka dots, right? Because Dusty was so instrumental in bringing up those first couple classes of NXT, those 4 horsewomen, those, Seth, Big E, all those people, like these first people that had these titles, Sami Zayn, all of these people. Dusty was a major influence. So using Dusty's stuff, Great American Bash in NXT, I think is spectacular. I would love the Starrcade thing to be pulled away from the WWE type gimmick of it and shown the respect and the love that NXT gave Great American Bash. But I think, while, yes, I understand the things that Cody is talking about and how this is family, this is personal, so on and so forth, and Z has a much larger beard all of a sudden, it still is important for Dusty's legacy to be remembered and immortalized in NXT as it is as the father of Dustin and Cody, who now are in AEW, but Dusty played a part in building NXT. He is just the dad of one of the executive vice presidents for AEW, which obviously there's still like credibility brought to him and stuff. But so when the Great American Bash was announced as Fyter Fest, Nick, did you think that it was a shot at AEW, or were you thinking it's just what they're doing?
No, I didn't take it as a shot. Yeah, I just felt like, okay, they're doing this, and I mean, I guess maybe on some level I thought it was like a counter programming type deal, because I mean, how can you not think that? But the idea of them using the Great American Bash name and yeah, no, I'm totally fine with all of that. But again, yeah, I did kind of feel like it was Triple H having to come out and say it's not counter programming, it kind of makes it feel even more like that. And I mean, that's not a big deal to me. I mean, it really isn't a big deal. If that's what you got to do, you got to do it. It's a business. So.
Z, what are your thoughts?
Clearly it's counter programming, only because Fyter Fest was announced. We knew about Fyter Fest. We knew what they were going to do with it. And then all of a sudden WWE is like, oh, you know what? A week before Fyter Fest, we're going to promote our 2-day event, the Great American Bash. And it's a total rip on fucking Cody and Dustin. Like, just look what they did when they brought back the Dusty Rhodes Classic just to compete with AEW. Like, every time they are like directly competing with AEW, and I know it's on a week-to-week basis, but when it comes to like major shows that run the same time, They always put Dusty's name on it. I know it's probably just to get into fucking Cody's head, but that's what Triple H has done. That's what Triple H did in DX. He would take people's shit and use it against them. And he's got the rights to it, so fuck him. Let's do it. I mean, but this is what wrestling wars are made of. This is kind of getting to the Monday Night War, Eric Bischoff versus Vince McMahon shit, with them taking shots at each other. I mean, we were sick of it in AEW when the first 2 months of AEW, all he did was talk about Triple H and that company and whatever. I mean, I'm glad they got away from that. But yeah, this is clearly counter programming. The fact that he says it's not is really dumb because, I mean, you're competing with them on a weekly basis, so you're trying to counter whatever they're doing. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
But see, again, that's what I was saying about the use of the Dusty name. I don't think is a shot at Cody. I think that, or even Dustin, I don't think it's a shot at AEW. I honestly believe that the building block of NXT, one of the strongest foundations, is Dusty Rhodes. Dusty doing the promo classes with these people, Dusty giving them a lot of insight and being like a lot of NXT talent talk about, the incredibly close relationship they had with Dusty Rhodes in the building blocks, the first couple of 4 or 5 years of NXT before he passed away, how much it hurt a lot of them. I don't think that it's so much a shot at AEW and Cody Rhodes as it is we're celebrating the legacy of a strong cornerstone of this foundation of NXT. NXT would not be where it is today, in my honest opinion, without the building block of Dusty Rhodes, who gave these classes and tutelage and training to a lot of the people who are on the roster now that just would not be where they were if it wasn't Dusty saying, hey, baby, hold on. You need to do something like this rather than doing something like that. Dusty built them to where they are, to where when people are watching them hearing, oh, Bayley came from NXT, let's see what NXT is about. Obviously it's not like it's like the big show as far as ratings and stuff are concerned, but to the people that truly love professional wrestling, the people who are huge fans of indie wrestling, even people who are fans of AEW can look at NXT and see that it's a wrestling show more than an entertainment show. Yes, WWE is sports entertainment, but if you're looking at NXT, they're paying a lot more attention to the sports part of it rather than and having the entertainment build up the sports rather than Raw or SmackDown, where you're watching an entertainment show with a little bit of wrestling in between. I don't think it's a shot.
But the fact that it's Cody's father is just a bonus at this point. Come on, man. I mean, just Vince is such an evil, fucking manipulative thing. So they
Vince
put
isn't playing
what you
NXT,
just
though.
explained. That's fine, but Vince is still the end all be all.
Not of NXT.
I would. I mean,
everyone
seen,
has said
since they went to TV. Since they went to TV weekly, you can see little things on the show. Like, I mean, I like NXT as a whole. And I think Vince McMahon doesn't mess with it that much. But I think there are certain Vince-esque things that have happened to NXT since they went to weekly television. Off the top of my head, I don't really know. But
there's that.
No. I mean, I had a list. I'm a stoner. I'm hungover. Like right now, mine's not working.
Oh, he's hungover. Told you.
Shut up.
Again, I don't think Vince touches it. I think that things are done based on network requests. I'd give it more to that than it is to Vince, because dude, look. There's one thing I will give everyone that is a Vince touch on NXT, and that is Charlotte touching that belt, right? Vince, no matter what, hates to lose. And Charlotte holding that NXT Women's Championship belt was put there to see if there was possible win in the ratings because Vince hates to lose. I'll give.
But it didn't work.
Collaboration
you know what did work, though? Hold on. Okay, so he puts the belt on Charlotte, and it doesn't help ratings at all. But you know what does help ratings? Sasha Banks in the main event of night 2. Fucking is the reason NXT beat AEW, or night 1, sorry. Is the reason they beat AEW was because of that last quarter hour of that main event. The whole show, AEW was winning the ratings until that main event.
AEW beat them in the AEW lost to NXT in the ratings both nights.
Right, but I'm saying the first night, the reason was because of that main event.
Yeah, and Sasha went all over Twitter with it. Bailey went all over Twitter, and that's what it is. Look, man, the bottom line is if you put two great wrestling talents against each other, and it's something that is a mainstream pull, like you said, Sasha Banks, Io Shirai was the main event of night 1 of Great American Bash, and that put them over on the ratings. And it's the first time that Chris Jericho was ever on the losing end in the ratings battle going on. And for AEW, and that was the other thing and that definitely what she's like, I'm better than Le Champion, and it's a testament to maybe look at that, right? Maybe if WWE goes, oh, wait a minute, so we beat them finally, we beat Jericho, and it's not because and my only fucking problem with it is because it was a fucking main roster star on NXT, so they're gonna think, oh, that's what's gonna bring it up. Well, you did it night 2 as well with Keith Lee versus Adam Cole, right? That was, and there's a lot of argument going on about the night 2 rating. We still won because we were better in the key demographic. And it's like, okay, you won a key demographic, but more people tuned in. No one gives a shit about, like, some advertisers care about key demographics, but when history writes itself in any situation, was WCW talking about we won in the key demographic,
which was what, 18 to 49?
Yeah, like 18 to 36, I believe, is the key
Oh, yeah, because they were talking about it on Busted Open. They said 18 to 49.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah. And it's like, who cares about the key demographic? I don't care. 84 weeks, WCW destroyed WWE in the ratings. And then Eric Bischoff said Mick Foley was winning a championship, right? What was their 1849 demographic week 85? Does anyone know? Does anyone know what their 18 to 49 key demographic was week 86, week 87? Like,
let me pull it up real quick. I got it.
No one gives a shit. Everyone's looking at the ratings numbers. And the bottom line is AEW lost to NXT 2 weeks in a row, both Fyter Fest, big event for AEW, to Great American Bash. And Z, you even said it last night. You watched AEW live because you knew the main event ending, the huge spoiler that was in the place for Great American Bash. But Pro Wrestling Scorecards did a scorecard for Fyter Fest, night 1 and night 2. They completely switched up night 2 because of all the spoilers that came out for Fyter Fest. So they made it just about the extras. So there were spoilers on both sides, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't spoiled for the AEW one, so right. I was only spoiled for the WWE.
And that's what I'm
saying. And in fact, I only went looking for the spoiler because Nick's a dick.
What's really funny is I had Nick side messaged me away from the group chat, and he was like, I'm talking about this, and he was still real vague about it. And I was like, dude, I know, I saw the confetti he was falling, and it was I know what the fucking spoiler was. Like, Keith Lee. He's like, yeah. I was like, okay. But yeah, he was still trying to be, good about it. And but it was a huge spoiler, and apparently a lot of people were pissed. They still won in the ratings demographic. So I guarantee that anger, it might be dropping now. But again, it's about the way everything is brought together, right? And I have stated for a very long time that I think NXT is easier to follow. And if they start winning in the ratings war and they start consistently, because right now Jericho's like, oh, we won the key demographic. Tony Khan, oh, we won the key demographic. And it's like, it's not the number anyone's going to really care about. Because the bottom line is when people are looking at it, and eventually in the long term, someone goes, you guys started losing at Great American Bash, and you guys never got the thing back. No one's going to say, yeah, but we had the key demographic during those 2 nights. That's when you lost the ratings war. That's when you started losing consistently. That's when NXT started proving that they were better than you in the ratings.
Well, It also doesn't help that that they had to move Mox and Brian Cage to this week's Fight for the Fallen. Oh, another wrestling show.
Again, yeah, you got to remember, man. It's 100%. That's the COVID thing, right?
Right. No, I get it. I'm just saying that doesn't help that you promoted this match and then, Mox has got a quarantine for 14 days and now it's just, you lose the rating war to NXT on night 2 when if you'd had Mox and Cage as your main event, maybe you beat them. Or, yeah. I mean, that first night, you shuffle around the card and you don't have the tag match versus the Sasha Banks match, or the Sasha Banks match doesn't be the main event and AEW wins that whole thing. So, I mean, it's a lot about match placement as well. Because they're not necessarily blowing them out the water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a rather close race. I mean, there was a time where WWE had beat them by like 150,000 viewers, which everyone's like, "Oh, that's huge." When is it though? Like, what's our end game here? Like, do we want 1 million viewers, 2 million viewers? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, is 150,000 people really that many fucking people?
Yeah. So the night 1 ratings were 792,000 for NXT. And AEW had 748,000, 50,000, whatever. And then on night 2, 759,000 for NXT, and AEW had 715,000. Again, like you said, these are close numbers. It's not like they're blowing them out of the water. And I think I would love to watch this flip-flop. And I think even when it is close numbers, that doesn't mean anyone really lost, right? Because that means that both of these shows are staying around the same area of ratings, even
and they're
through
holding a steady
all of this
audience.
shit. Yeah, and that's what fucking matters. Sure, I don't give a shit about it. They give a shit about the rating war. I don't really care if AEW beats NXT unless, like you said, it starts hitting like 300,000 more people, 400,000 more people. Mm-hmm. Then I'll give a fuck. When they're staying within 50 to 150,000 people, it's what do you feel like watching that day? Yeah, right. What do you feel like watching live that day? And that's just how I agree with you 100%, Z. It's not really a ratings war until you start blowing somebody out of the water.
All right, so since we're on the topic, my favorite part of Fyter Fest, though, you guys watched all of it, right?
Well, we're going to go into it. We're going to go into
okay.
With the results in a second. Nick, what were you about to say?
One thing I like is that I read that, you have WWE saying, they had this amount of ratings and between 18 and 49, but they had the majority of their viewers that weren't in that demographic. So to me, that's viewers below the age of 18. So if they had more viewers below the age of 18, that to me, that's one thing that's kind of bothered me over the last couple of years is that the average age of at least the WWE viewer is getting older. But that to me is saying that you're having more of that younger generation getting involved with it. And the fact that they're getting involved with a product like NXT, that to me is a bigger win than the ratings overall, because that's showing that that younger generation is getting into it again. And as long as you keep building and building, then that audience is going to grow. So I like that stat more than the numbers themselves.
Yeah, you get the kids, you get the parents, you get
the money.
That's right.
And that's what it
is. That's why John Cena was popular for 10 years. He pandered to little kids, and then they bought the shirts and everything.
Yep. And that's as soon as he started pandering to the kids is when all the adults were like, Cena sucks. And the kids were like, let's go, Cena. Cena sucks. All right. Z talks about it. We're going to get into it. Let's talk about the results for Fyter Fest. Then we'll go into Great American Bash. Fyter Fest, night 1, kicked off with Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus with Marco Stunt defeating MJF and Wardlow. Then Hikaru Shida defended her AEW Women's World Championship against Penelope Ford with one of the best counters I've seen in a while. Cody with Arn Anderson then defeated Jake Hagar for the AEW TNT Championship. And then in a tag team match, Private Party of Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn with Matt Hardy defeated the Inner Circle of Santana and Ortiz. And then the tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship was Kenny Omega and Adam Page defending their titles against the Best Friends in Chuck Taylor and Trent. Then you go to night 2, and the AEW Tag Team Championship match was the kickoff of night 2, as it was the main event for night 1. Kenny Omega and Adam Page again retained against Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. Then there was a singles match with Lance Archer with Jake Roberts defeated the one, the only, the bad boy, Joey Janela. Then there was an 8-man tag team match. The Butcher and the Blade with and Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr., Ray Phoenix, of course, defeated FTR and the Young Bucks. Then there was a handicap match of Nyla Rose defeating Kenzie Page and Kylan King. Then there was a 6-man tag team match, Colt Cabana and the Dark Order, Brody Lee and Stu Grayson, defeating SoCal Uncensored, Christopher Daniels, Frank Kazarian, and, of course, the one and only Scorpio Sky. God, he's going to be so good. And then the main event was a singles match, Chris Jericho with Santana and Ortiz, defeating Orange Cassidy, my favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler, in the main event. Z, you said you had a favorite moment of Fyter Fest. We'll start off with that.
I have 2.
Ooh,
one,
those.
yeah, I have 2. One's really funny, so I'll start with the good one, the non-funny one first. That spot where the Canadian Destroyer into the crowd of people, I popped. I put it right in the chat as soon as it happened. Yep. Jesus fuck, what a spot. Like, that was amazing. There was other amazing things, but that is the one that stands out for me. Never seen that. And just to see the way that it's Ray Phoenix, the one that does it, right? The Canadian Destroyer, is that Pentagon Jr.?
I think Pentagon was the one that does it.
All right.
Pentagon's got the painted face.
Yeah, it looks good, right? Like you wouldn't think anything of it, but you can also physically see him like protecting Nick Jackson as they're falling. Like he like grabs, I mean, it looks brutal and everything, but if you're a smart like we are, you notice little things that happen that, other people don't notice. The funny story I have about night 2 is the handicap match between Nyla Rose and the 2 other females. I was watching it with my wife and my mother-in-law, and I asked them to tell me which one of those women was not originally a woman, and they couldn't. They kept guessing. No, that white girl. No, that white girl. No one guessed Nyla Rose until she grabbed her microphone. Once she started talking on the mic, they're like, "Oh, well, it's clear." I thought that was a little funny.
That's really funny because I mentioned that to my mother-in-law too, because she'll watch Raw and SmackDown, whatever, and any WWE, but she really doesn't give a shit about the AEW product. It's too much for her. So Nyla Rose is out there. I'm like, she used to be a man. She's like, really? And she couldn't tell until she started talking on the mic, and she's like, oh, yeah, you can kind of see that Adam's apple sticking out.
So what were your overall impressions of Fyter Fest, Z?
I liked it. It was a pay-per-view-esque on free television, and like if I'm breaking it down like I would break down any other pay-per-view, I'd give it a solid 7. It was entertaining. It from start to finish, it was great. Now, you take that title match out like I was talking about for the ratings and whatnot. That sucks, but they did a great job of compensating for it. Okay, so we're going to have the tag titles defended again. We'll make that the starting match. We'll make Jericho the main event, and we'll just go on with the show, like booking on the fly. So, I mean, that was cool. I just don't understand how Private Party ended up with a tag title shot, but this is wrestling, so whatever.
Because they won the night before.
Okay, so that's what it was. Like if they won that night, was that the original deal? They won that night, so then they got a shot second night, or they just made that a thing because of Mox and Cage?
Nick?
I think it was a thing that if they won, they would get a title shot. I don't remember them saying that it would be at the next night. I just remember them saying it would be they would get a title shot.
Booking on the fly. Here's your title shot because we have a spot. Okay. Well, whatever. I mean, I honestly, it was a good show. Like I said, if I'm rating it like I would rate another pay-per-view, yeah, I would give it a 7 because I don't think it was, oh my God, great, but I also don't think it was the drizzling shits. So, yeah.
Nick.
Yeah, I would agree with Z. There were a couple parts that I got a little, I don't want to say bored, but just kind of lost interest in. The Dark Order with Colt Cabana match, I like the storytelling that they're doing with Colt Cabana, trying to pull him into the Dark Order, and you can see he's still Colt Cabana and trying to get excited about, that he got put into the match at the end to get the pinfall, and he's excited about it. But Brody Lee and, Stu Grayson, they're just kind of like, trying to keep him at bay from getting overly excited. Like, that whole thing's cool, but that match was a little boring for me. The Nyla Rose handicap match, that was some more filler that I was just kind of bored with. But other than that, the Jungle Boy Luchasaurus against MJF and Wardlow, that was a good match. That 8-man tag match with the Lucha Brothers and Butcher and the Blade, that was one of the highlights for me. And like Z said, that spot, I mean, anytime for me after watching AEW, anytime the Lucha Brothers are in a match, it doesn't really matter who it's with. That match is phenomenal. So
I'll agree with that.
It was really good.
And who do you think Nyla Rose's manager is going to be?
I want to say Awesome Kong.
Excuse me. It's going to be Vicky Guerrero.
Okay, yeah. She said that she was a former champion, didn't she?
Vicky's held the Divas title.
Oh, okay.
Has she really?
Yeah, back in the day.
Oh, yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. Yep, she did.
So
yeah,
she's not lying. She's just kayfabing. Yeah, I forgot about that Brody Lee match and the whole thing going on with Colt Cabana, and that's probably one of my favorite storylines in wrestling right now. And Colt Cabana is the perfect person to do it with because everyone on the internet before this storyline was like, "Oh, Colt Cabana sucks. Why is he here? Blah blah blah." All right, so he sucks. So that's why I'm phasing into the Dark Order. Like they're doing a really good job with this storyline, and Brody putting Colt over. Although the only thing that bothers me about it is he did an interview on it was either Busted Open or Talk Is Jericho where he wants to be in a position to put younger talent over, and Colt Cabana isn't exactly younger talent. But whatever, it's working and it's entertaining and it's got my attention for now.
Nick, what did you rate Fyter Fest? We got a 7 from Z.
I would have to agree with that, honestly. I can't not agree with that. It's a good number.
Z, was there anything that stood out to Fyter Fest from you? Stood out to you from Fyter Fest that you wish would not have happened? Obviously, we're taking away the fact that the virus took away the Mox versus Brian Cage match. But outside of that, things that were happening, you're like I wish this would have gone this way. I wish they would have done this a little bit better.
I wish there wasn't such a heelish end to the Cody Rhodes match. Like, all the interference doesn't make sense. And then the fact that Hager's wife smacks him and then Brandy doesn't come out. Like it would make more sense for Brandy to get involved, not Arn, not Dustin. Like, you got smacked by his wife, so Brandy comes out to retaliate for her husband. That's just better storytelling. So that bothered me. But and then I don't know, like the wonky finish of that match. What I don't know that really bothered me about it. And honestly, if that didn't happen or that would have went a different way, I would have given the whole thing a higher rating. So yeah, that was my bone to pick with their show.
Nick, your bone to pick.
The Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho match, well, I think it was a pretty decent match. I would have liked to have seen Orange Cassidy featured more so we could see his skill set. I mean, I feel like they've been kind of building up to him going away from the lazy thing. So I'm fine with them keeping the lazy part of it. But like there was some parts in the opening of the match where he was, getting some shots in, and then he got his ass kicked for the rest of the majority of the match, then came back a little bit here and there. So, to me, it kind of took me out of it a little bit, and I didn't expect him to win the match, but I would have liked to have seen, him fight a little harder, get a couple more shots in. I think Jericho made him look good, but I just would have liked to have seen him,
But as a baby face, aren't you supposed to get beat down so you get a pop on the comeback?
I didn't really feel that pop on the comeback. I just
a
little bit.
There's not really a crowd, so there's not really a real.
Even like for me,
I mean, that's just wrestling psychology. So.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I understand where you're coming from, Nick. There was that spot though that I thought where Orange Cassidy does his kicks to the shin and does the bullshit, the lazy as fuck super kick. When they kind of went into that spot, when he put his hands in his pocket and did the little kicks, but then he hit like a real super kick with it, I was kind of like, oh, holy shit, I like you said, they're kind of getting away from the lazy gimmick, but still really incorporating it. So I don't think it's so much that they're getting away from the lazy gimmick. I think it's they're taking spots that you're used to and adding elements of pop to them. I really hope they don't get away too much from the lazy gimmick because he is just so good with it, But I love adding surprise to certain elements. This way, it's not always like repetitive. We have said it over and over again. Repetitive, and if you know that something is coming, is repetitive and predictable. It doesn't matter how predictable it is as long as it's done well, and it's the same spot, light little kick, and then super kick. But now this super kick was like a hardcore super kick to Jericho. And like you said, Jericho put him over really well, in the match, made him look good. Like we have said it on our show for a long time. Orange Cassidy is somebody to pay attention to eventually, because even when he was doing those matches with Ray Phoenix a few weeks ago, he was going nuts. And like Orange Cassidy is a good wrestler, right? He has a gimmick that he can use for a long time that I don't think will get old as long as he keeps parts of it fresh, and so you can see Orange Cassidy in the long run being a main event player in AEW, because I think they're using him well. I would never see him as a main event player in WWE because 100% WWE would not know how to use his gimmick.
Orange Cassidy would be R-Truth if he was in WWE.
Yes, absolutely.
He'd be like the top of the low card.
Yeah, but I think, man, like I like R-Truth, right? I have no beef with R-Truth. I think R-Truth is amazing at what he does. But even looking at old school R-Truth when he was in TNA and he had the NWA championship, I think Orange Cassidy is a better overall wrestler. I think R-Truth is right now a way better entertainer, right? But I think Orange Cassidy is better at the in-ring game than R-Truth is. Maybe what R-Truth was, maybe is. We've seen him wrestle real short matches. It was fun watching him fight Akira Tozawa for that 24/7 title. But again, I just think that Orange Cassidy overall is just a better in-ring worker. So both of you give Fyter Fest 7. Very little shit talking, a lot of praise going towards it. What is so Z, what are you looking forward to following Fyter Fest from AEW? Or is it just I really want to see the Mox Brian Cage match?
I don't know. I don't really want to see the Mox in Cage match just because I I don't really think it's going to be a good match just because their styles are so different. But we'll see what they do. I mean, they are professionals. Hopefully they adapt. Going forward, I mean, I just want to see them continue. The one thing I can say about AEW is they put on a consistent product. They don't scrap things as quickly as WWE does. They kind of let things play out for both good and bad, but they still let things play out. I just kind of want to see them go in the direction that they are going, slow, the little engine that could just keep on going. And I think they'll be just fine.
Nick, same question.
I have to agree with Z. I mean, they really haven't. There's been moments over the last couple months, even before COVID, where we were kind of like, getting a little wishy-washy about some of the things that AEW has been doing, but I haven't felt that way in quite a while, and I do like the direction they're going. I'm not really overly excited about the Mox match. I mean, I could honestly do without it. But I'm interested to see where they go with finally putting an end to the MJF and Jungle Boy storyline. I'm not sick of it by any means, but I'm interested to see what they do with that. I'm guessing it's going to be something at All Out. And I am a fan of that Brody Lee and the Dark Order storyline with Colt Cabana. I feel like it's becoming a slow burn, where they're just, every week something different is happening with Colt Cabana. I don't want to see them just automatically push him into the Dark Order and then he's just a totally different fucking person. So I like that storyline a lot. So they're doing a lot of really cool things, and I'm interested to see where it goes.
I laughed when you said you're not interested in the AEW Championship match, and I laughed because not once did anyone think that when Jericho was holding that belt. Right? A lot of conversation from WWE when Ambrose was a champion was how boring he was. Now, granted, that's a lot of on WWE creative. We're not going to make it seem like it's completely John's fault because that's his real name. Mox is not. But he got a lot of criticism. Like, even from Austin, it was like, you're the champion, on that podcast. Is like, it just doesn't feel like you really want to go anywhere with it. And a lot of people thought that, Austin ripped him a little bit too much. But now you see him in AEW with the character that he wants to be, and people are going, I don't really care too much. Now, granted, that's not the overall consensus. I'm not saying it is. There's a lot of people that love Jon Moxley in AEW with that title. But there are people like us that are starting to go, I want to see other parts of this show rather than the title match. The title match isn't something that's fully intriguing me. And if that starts becoming a big proponent, like you keep watching it. Now, granted, Mox matches are those death-type matches, right? There's always some serious violence in it. So it's always going to have its fan base. It will always have its people. But overall, if people start getting bored of your champion, in any, like 25-30% of people stop caring, that's a problem, and it plays more on John than it does AEW or WWE. Then if you start seeing the same type of feelings regarding a guy from two different companies, like a lot of people were like, John was just held back in WWE. Now we look what he can do in AEW, and people are starting to go, I mean, it's cool. I don't need to watch it though.
Yeah, but
regarding his title matches.
I mean, I know, but leading up to this, I mean, he's also been off TV for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't help me wanting to see this match anymore. Like, all I've heard is Taz come out and talking, give him the Fuck the World title from ECW that I haven't seen in, since I was a kid. But now it's a champion versus champion match, and that doesn't even intrigue me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they put a title on Cage, bring a new title to AEW, whether it's a permanent title or just a vanity title, we'll find out. But now it's champion versus champion, and I still don't really care.
So let's move on to NXT. This 2-night event, Great American Bash. Hello, me.
My fucking headphones died.
You idiot.
Is that better?
No, just mute.
Yeah, that's what I did.
No.
Oh.
We can hear you. That's how I know you didn't mute. Great American Bash, Night 1. Tegan Nox defeated Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and Mia Yim in a fatal 4-way elimination match to determine the number 1 contender for the NXT Women's Championship. Up next was Timothy Thatcher defeating Oni Lorcan by submission in a singles match. Then Rhea Ripley defeated Aaliyah and Robert Stone by submission in that handicap match. This was a match that if Rhea Ripley lost, she would have had to have joined Robert Stone brand. Dexter Lumis defeated Roderick Strong in a strap match. And then in the main event of Night 1 of Great American Bash, Io Shirai defeated Sasha Banks in a singles match. Night 2 saw Tony Nese kick it off by defeating Leo Ruff in a singles match. Then there was a street fight between Candice LeRae and Mia Yim, and Candice LeRae went over. Then there was a Bronson Reed went over Tony Nese in a singles match. Tony Nese getting double work. Then Johnny Gargano defeated Isaiah Swerve Scott in a singles match. And in a 6-man tag team match, Legado del Fantasma of Santos Escobar, Joaquin Wilde, and Raul Mendoza defeated Drake Maverick and Breezango, obviously Tyler Breeze, and Fandango. Then in a singles match, Mercedes Martinez defeated Santana Garrett. And in the main event of Night 2, the winner-take-all singles match for the NXT Championship and the North American Championship, Keith Lee defeated Adam Cole to become the first ever double champion, double NXT North American champion in NXT history. We started with Z last time, so we're going to start with you, Nick. Nick, go into what you would grade this overall and give me some of your highlights, and then we'll go to the lowlights later.
I would give this one a little bit more of a nod with a 7.5. Well, I would actually even say an 8. It still had its moments where it kind of lost me here and there, but I think the highlight for me, even though I knew that Keith Lee was going to win, I thought that match was really good. Good storytelling. There were a couple bumps in that match that I was just like, ugh, and when Adam Cole landed on his neck, I was like, fuck, dude, he's dead.
That's it. He's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. I actually really enjoyed the Fandango and Drake Maverick match. I thought that was a really good match, highlighting whatever Del Fantasma. I'd not had a lot of experience, seeing them in matches. I thought it was really good. The Sasha Banks Io Shirai, another really good match. The match with Mia Yim and Candice LeRae on Night 2, that match was brutal. Yeah, that was brutal, man. Especially the ending where they both landed on the chairs and they seemed like they were fucking dead. That was another one of the highlights. So that's pretty much why I bumped it up, because there were a lot of really good things that I can take away. And same with AEW, but there were just those things that pushed it that much further for me.
It's funny, man, looking at old stuff of Candice LeRae. Like, she was obviously Joey Ryan's, mixed tag team partner in a lot of the indies. It was even made mention of a few times on the Being the Elite about how he's been a different character ever since he lost his blonde friend. But there's old school, you can see there's, a photo of Candice LeRae bloody as fuck. I'm talking Freddy Krueger type red face, right? The entire fucking thing is just engrossed with blood. So it's a street fight for Candice LeRae. To me, I was just like, man, what an old hat that is. Now, granted, in WWE, it's a completely different type scenario for a street fight or something like that. Whereas on the indies, you will get that entire crimson mask. But in WWE, you're lucky if you get a couple strips of blood and things like that. Z, what's your overall grade for the Great American Bash? And give me your highlights. Again, we'll go into the lowlights in a little bit.
I am with Nick. I give it an 8. Among the matches that Nick talked about, the best match on the card was on night 1, and it happened between Timothy Thatcher and Loney Orkin. That was one of the best
Oni
technical
Lorcan?
wrestling. What?
Oni Lorcan?
Oni Lorcan.
I thought you said Loney Orkin.
No, I said Oni Lorcan.
Okay.
Stop fucking with me.
I'm not fucking with you. I swear to God, I thought you said Loney Orkin. I'm not fucking with you at all. I really thought Loney Orkin was said.
Well, I guess you're going to have to go back and re-listen to the show.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I bet. But yeah, that match was a fucking clinic. Timothy Thatcher doesn't have much of a look, much of a personality, but man, his catch wrestling thing, it's good. It's real good, and he'll be up on the main roster really quickly. I have a feeling. Because you put.
See, I got to go back and find that match because I watched it on Hulu, and I didn't see that.
How do you watch anything NXT on Hulu?
Yeah.
My power went out. Oh, not my power. My cable went out Wednesday night. And,
you don't have the network? You don't have Wi-Fi? You don't have a hotspot? No. It's 2020, Nick. Get in the game.
I just went on Hulu.
Yeah, man. Like, WWE Network has NXT the next day.
And you mean to tell me, oh, you know what? So I was reading, I learned something a couple months ago of why WWE doesn't put the full show on Hulu, ever. And never will. Because it forces you to watch. It forces you to watch it live. Oh, man, I missed it. I better catch it live next time. Mm-hmm. That's why they pull stuff. But it just pisses me off when they pull really good fucking matches like that one. Because that was a stellar fucking match. Now, a lot of people would say it was boring because it was a very, very technical catch wrestling-esque match. But I love that shit. So it popped me real hard.
So, Nick, anytime you watch NXT the next day, because your power goes out or something, go to the network. Always. It's on there the next day and commercial free.
I think it's on there hours after it airs live on the network.
Yeah, I think like 3 a.m. it shows up on the network. 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is midnight fucking in Vegas. Hey, Daniel. Okay, so lowlights. Something you wish they did better, Nick. Go for it. What's your bone to pick? Pick your bone.
I'm not a fan of I can't even remember his name with Aaliyah and the whatever brand.
Robert Stone?
Yeah, that just it's way too, to use Joe's term, tickle butt for me. When Shotzi ran over his leg, I thought that part of it was kind of funny, but then they cut back to him like he was laying on the ground trying to get himself together, and he grabbed the wrong leg for a minute, and I was like, oh, come on. So that part of it I could have easily done without. That was really it though, honestly.
Okay. Mr. Z.
I'm trying to think of a low light.
That's crazy. You guys give it an 8 and you barely have low lights.
Well, it's just because it's not fresh in my mind. If I just watched it, I'm sure I could be like, oh, you know what I mean? But, to be quiet, if I'm picking a low light, there's just, and the reason it gets an 8, not a 10, it's just because there's just some things on the brand that I'm just not interested in. So okay. I don't care about them, whether they were good or bad. I just move on and fast forward, or, you know what I mean? Like,
so would you say then for you that an 8 is a perfect score regarding a show that when there's nothing horrible that stands out, but there's definitely things you don't care about?
Yeah, I'll give you that, because a 10 would be like from start to finish, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm like into everything. You have my attention. and this it includes AEW and NXT, there are certain sections of the show, and I can't pinpoint them, but I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm done with this, whatever. And a lot of it has to do with that Robert Stone guy. Like, I didn't mind the story with Rhea, but I don't like him for some reason. Like, and it's not like a heel or a face. Like, I just don't like him. Like, I don't think I ever will, no matter what he is. Yeah. So it's just lack of interest gives it an 8.
Okay.
And I can actually think of one other one, the Mercedes Martinez match. I don't have a big backstory about her. I mean, they kind of did this little promo package showcasing her a little bit, making her look, like a beast, like really tough. And then she came out, and she kind of dominated that match. But I also was just kind of like, I didn't get that feeling from her like I do from, let's say, Rhea Ripley, where she's going to come out and you just feel that power from her. I don't get that from her. So I just was that I was like, whatever.
So Keith Lee is your first ever double NXT and NXT North American champion. He is the first in history to have it. He's obviously a real dominating guy. There's obviously been talk about the NXT title being revamped, but not different, just larger. Are we thinking that maybe next week on Wednesday we see the larger title brought out because Keith Lee's a larger guy? Is that a possibility of a debut? And post note to that, what are you hoping for Keith Lee as a double champion going forward? We'll start with Z.
I hope they book him as a double champion and he has to defend both belts going forward to a point where after a couple weeks of having to wrestle every week because you have both belts, he decides on his own to just hold on to the NXT and, vacate the North American, like almost like a storyline where it's like he's just like, don't force him to pick. Don't vacate the North American title. Don't give me another fucking tournament. Like, just do a storyline or do a storyline where he defends both of them at, this takeover, and then it just wears him down. So eventually he loses the North American title. But just don't hand it over. Give me some kind of story behind it. And that's, and Keith Lee is a star in his own right. He wouldn't even need a title, and he'd still be one of, if not the most popular wrestler on the NXT brand or in WWE right now. He just has that much charisma. So I think he's going to do great things with the title if they keep him down in NXT long enough. Like, he could now, I have a feeling Adam Cole is going up and Keith Lee's going to be the face of NXT, which is cool. Awesome. Wonderful.
Now, you said vacating the title. He is currently at 171 days as the champion for the North American champion. He is the longest is Velveteen Dream at 200. Can you mute me, please? The longest is Velveteen Dream at 209 days. Do we think that? Are you hoping that they at least give him the longest reign with it? Let's say he goes 210, 215. Right, because we're talking a month and a half-ish. Are you hoping they do that with him, Z, before he relinquishes that belt?
I don't really care about that because he's already the first wrestler to hold 2 singles belt in NXT history. So you don't gotta push all these accolades on him. If it happens, it happens. But don't just be like, all right, we're going to give him this and we're going to give him that. And we're, just don't like make it premeditated. If it just happens organically where they're in a good storyline with both belts and it just happens to go over that mark, cool, whatever. But don't, if they start pushing it down my throat, like, oh, he's had it for 192 days and now 198, like, that shit gets really old really quick to me. So I would not like to see that.
All right. So Nick, let's go to the same question for you about Keith Lee. One, the championship belt, do you think that they're going to debut a larger championship belt for him or wait a little bit? And then two, what are your hopes with him as a double champion going forward in NXT?
I don't think they'll debut a larger belt for him, maybe down the road, but I mean, I think for a guy his size to have one over each shoulder, just kind of exacerbates his size. I think that's enough right there. I would like to see him hold both belts for a decent amount of time, because it seems like when somebody has two belts, with the exception of like tag titles, like Bayley, the tag title and the women's championship, it seems like they don't hold those belts for very long. And I'm not talking I want to see him for a year with both of these belts, but I think if you have him in a couple decent storylines, for the for the North American title here and there, and he defends it 2 or 3 times, and then the NXT title a couple times, or you may even see him, okay, well, you're going to have this match at TakeOver for the North American title, and then you're also going to be in the main event for the NXT title, to kind of put him in there as like not only a fighting champion, but a guy that can just go. He'll take on all comers. I think if you have that for a little while, I think that's really cool. And I like the idea of a slow burn with him and Killer Karrion Kross.
Whoa, let's not give him 3 Ks. Especially when facing Keith Lee.
So with Karrion Kross, I like the slow burn. I mean, you kind of saw him, when he was celebrating, and not to go for him right away, and who knows what title he could go for, but I like that storyline down the line, and there's a lot of different things you could do, but like Z said, he's one of the most over guys in the company right now, and I hope they don't rush him up to the main roster. I mean, he's only really been in this prominent role for less than a year, where he's been as popular as he is, leading up to Survivor Series last year. And then that really cemented his place on the map, at least for me. So I'd like to see him in NXT for quite some time. Like Z said too, I'm not a huge fan of, he's held the title for 432 days. Like, that's cool, but I don't need to hear that all the time.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do with the guy, because he is so charismatic. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. He's like this hybrid big dude that, I mean, you would never expect to see a guy like that do some of the things he does and do it so well and fluid. It just kind of blows your mind every time. So, yeah, sky's the limit for this dude right now.
Z mentioned a little bit of a point that I want to get into, and then we'll close up the show. Adam Cole, his contract is allegedly up come August, next month. His future obviously is, different. We don't know. He's huge. He has a great friendship with guys running AEW, the Young Bucks, obviously, all the Bullet Club stuff that they had. But he has not had a shortage of time as an NXT superstar, as a guy thrown into main roster spots, especially during Survivor Series last year on Raw and SmackDown, where he defended his NXT championship on both, and in great matches against top guys, Seth Rollins and Daniel Bryan. The future of Adam Cole is being thrown around like crazy on the internet right now. A lot of people think AEW. A lot of people think he's staying in NXT because it's a great spot for him. Where do you see Adam Cole? What do you not where do you see? What do you hope for Adam Cole in the future? Do you want to see him try AEW? Would you like to see him stay in NXT, or even jump to be a main spot guy on Raw or SmackDown?
I would like to see him stay in NXT for the foreseeable future. I think that they have something really special with the Undisputed Era, and I think the Undisputed Era without Adam Cole is not as special as it is now. And while we had him as the NXT champion for fucking ever, I don't think him losing the belt takes anything away from him at all. He's a great talent to have there. I think that stable with the Undisputed Era is NXT. I mean, it's not. I mean, if you want to move them all up together to Raw, I honestly would be okay with that. I don't want to see them split up. I'm not saying that Adam Cole can't be as popular as he is now with the Undisputed Era. I don't think that at all. I think he'd be just fine without them. But I think as that group, they're just second to none in most of professional wrestling. I mean, that stable is just phenomenal. So I'd like to see him stay in NXT and keep doing things there at least for another year. I don't want to see him go to AEW, at least not yet. I would rather just see him stay where he's at, stay with the Undisputed Era, keep that thing going, and see where it takes us.
All right. Me personally, I agree. I would like, if they're going to put him on a different show, if he goes to SmackDown or Raw, one, I don't want to see it. But at the same time, it's not that I don't want to see it because I don't think he deserves it. I'm worried, right? Like you have to. It's amazing what happens to guys when they shoot from NXT to Raw and SmackDown. Some guys do amazing, right? Look at Drew McIntyre. But again, Drew was Raw, SmackDown guy way earlier in his career too. You know, it's like man, Street Profits are doing fine, right? You know, they're same fucking gimmick as it was, and on top of it, they're the Raw Tag Team Champions. It's just worrisome, man. It's really worrisome seeing people go from NXT to Raw and SmackDown because it's like it seems like Triple H cares so much about the building of a character in long-term aspects versus when they get to where Raw and SmackDown, when it's headed by somebody else, obviously Vince McMahon or, you know, the Bruce Pritchard, who is now running both shows because Heyman's gone. And as far as the longevity of that, it's just worrisome. You know, like I would love to see Undisputed Era move up. And it took a few years for them to run NXT. Like Adam Cole debuted, 3 or 4 years ago? You know, and then he came through and he kicked Drew McIntyre in the face. And then Drew McIntyre ended up getting facing Andrade and then losing and then moving on. You know, I would like to see then Undisputed Era move to Raw and then, dude, fight Drew McIntyre, right? Because that's story and building. It's been time. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's not going to happen right away. And I would love to see maybe some middle stuff, maybe some little things. I don't need to see them in the top spot, but man, I don't want to see them killed either, killed off, because it's very possible they could. And granted, everything's different with this COVID shit now. You know, like you don't know what everybody's doing. You don't know what everybody can do, so on and so forth. What I would love to see is Undisputed Era as a whole move to like Raw and do what I was just saying. Eventually fight with Drew McIntyre. I mean, but I highly doubt they're going to get that top spot like that. At the same time, him going to AEW, one, Britt's there, but I think it breaks up the greatness that is the stable of Undisputed Era. You know what I'm saying? And I agree with you. I don't – Bullet Club is going on in New Japan. Like next week we're going to talk Dominion and stuff and how Bullet Club is fucking running New Japan again. But all that shit just ended and I haven't watched because I like to sleep in between the work and the show sometimes. But Bullet Club is a stable that was started with Finn Balor, then Prince Devitt. Brought in other people like, you know, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, who was Doc Gallows then. AJ Styles was in Bullet Club. A lot of people that you know now were in Bullet Club at one point because of just the popularity, you know. And then obviously New Japan has other things going on with Chaos. Shinsuke Nakamura was the founding member of Chaos in New Japan. But again, these are stables that are carried on through also different leaders. Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, all these guys, you know, Kenny Omega was a leader. AJ Styles was a leader. Prince Devitt, Finn Balor was a leader. And now the Tongas are, you know, kind of running it. The Guerrillas of Destiny. So again, it is a longevity thing, not based on one specific person. At the time, unless it is something that play like that, you really couldn't, you didn't know, like, okay, when you go from Finn Balor, Prince Devitt, who is just the guy who's running it at the time, to an AJ Styles as the leader, you're giving it a name to keep it going, right? AJ Styles is coming in and he is widely known. Him then Kenny taking it is Kenny was loved in that in New Japan. He wasn't super popular worldwide right then, right? So it's like AJ giving Kenny the rub. You would have to bring in a bigger name to say, I'm now Undisputed Era, screw you, and then take it over. But I don't think you could do that in NXT.
Yeah,
I don't
who
think
you
you
gonna
could do that in WWE. You know,
no.
I just don't think that you can extend the longevity of a group without the original founding member, leader, whatever, in WWE NXT like you could in New Japan. So yeah, I think you lose Adam Cole, you kind of lose Undisputed Era, which sucks, you know. So I don't want Undisputed Era to leave because I love them. I love that group dynamic as a whole. We all talked about it. We were upset when we thought Roderick Strong was going. You know, it was like, oh, don't break this up. But yeah, that's it, man. Z, obviously his phone died again or whatever with him. That's it for breaking down the room. Like I said, next week, New Japan's Dominion pay-per-view just ended. Bullet Club running that bitch. We're not going to give any major spoilers, but definitely go check that out. New Japan World, man, $10 a month, just like WWE Network. And man, is it some amazing fucking wrestling to watch on New Japan. So go check that out. Watch Dominion. We're going to talk about that next week. Obviously, next week is also the horror show at Extreme Rules. We're going to make our pro wrestling scorecard predictions for that and knock Nick off of his championship title mountain as he currently has right now. Sorry, sucker. And we're going to get into all that next week on Breaking Down the Ring. So make sure you tune in Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If not, you can always catch the replay on YouTube or our Facebook. Check out breakingdownthering.com and go ahead and get yourself some of our merch. Again, we have that Pride shirt up. It is now July. You could still purchase that Pride shirt, and that Pride shirt will be donating 100% of the profits to the Trevor Project. I actually updated it from going to random charities to one specific charity. I love the Trevor Project. So we've already donated $32, like I sent them money. So basically how this works is every $50 that we accrue for charity, it will deposit automatically to the Trevor Project, or once every month, it'll send whatever money. This month, it was like $32.02 that have gone to the Trevor Project, which helps LGBTQ youth in transitioning from just dealing with their lives, you know, from whether they're curious to whether they officially know if they're gay, to if they want to transition into a different gender. Basically, it's helping the mental state, because the mental state is just as big of a part of everything in what we do. And we have to pay attention to the mental capacity, especially of young kids, man. Like Nick, you know it, just as dads, you know, we have to pay attention to the mental capacity of our kids just as much if we have to take care of them physically and emotionally. You know, it's just a big part. So the Trevor Project is huge. Unfortunately, just to give everyone a heads up, because of the COVID-19 and our printing situation being out in California, everything is taking about a month for it to be sent out. But they are coming. I sent a few shirts that were booked at the end of May, sent out just a couple days ago. So they're coming. It's just unfortunately slow due to all of the problems that are going on with COVID-19. But again, that shirt is available. We're going to have another shirt available to make available for charity. That will be coming out as soon as I can create new products, because again, due to the COVID situation, they're not even accepting new products for the site just because of it just being so taxing on the company. So, breakingdownthering.com. Get yourself a shirt. Check out all of us on social media. We are your ring crew.
Nick Veg Chop.
And me, the all Mikey one, Mikey himself. Thank you again so much for listening, so much for watching, so much for paying attention, and we are out.